Hello, my name is Asa Laholland, and I'm here to talk about my progress with JamBuddy, which is our current capstone project, which is a music application that is intended to provide a social media outlet for musicians to come together and jam. Okay, general overall status report. Progress was made in the last sprint to set up the initial front end and back end of our web application. The front end progress was mostly scaffolding and routing a Create React app, and the back end progress was mostly involved in setting up a Django framework and a Postgres SQL database, and then hosting all of that on GitHub, Vercel, Python Anywhere, and Elephant SQL for our database. My personal overall objectives for this first 2 week sprint were four. One was environmental setup, basically getting all VS Code and all of everything Docker running together. Database setup. I was able to deploy the database. I didn't write the SQL scripts, but was able to deploy it to OpenSQL. I'm still having trouble connecting it to the rest of our applications, so that is an ongoing task for sure for the next couple of sprint as well. I did work on the backend design and basically setting up Django as our backend framework and the scaffolding involved in our API endpoints as well. I was able to deploy Postgres into our Elephant SQL. I didn't write the SQL queries, but I did deploy and run our tables, so those actually do exist. I basically set up the initial project structure, just separating the backend and front-end folders in our shared GitHub repo, and then setting up a Django skeleton for the backend, as well as Docker scripts to run locally and in our production server. I worked on deploying our products, or our applications rather, to two websites, one for the front end for Vercel, and the other to the back end of Python Anywhere, and that worked out pretty well. I also worked on setting up a backend admin site, basically just to see into the database and manage the records that we have locally. This only works locally because I'm having problems with, like I said, Elephant SQL for our deployment site as well. The last thing that I worked on was setting up some initial REST endpoints for our API, basically just simple CRUD functions, but I was able to set it up for basically all the core tables that we have with a lot of assistance from Brett, who is also working on the back end to get things fixed and running. What did I learn? Integration is more than half the battle. It's always a challenge. Python Anywhere is a good option for Django deployments. Python Anywhere must run in a virtual environment, not Docker, and is not easy to run for these deployments. And Elephant SQL is troublesome to work with. Plans for next sprint: fix the Elephant SQL, figure out authentication, and ensure Vercel app can make calls to the backend app.